He kissed my daughter's forehead and whispered, "Don't tell Mommy." I remember how cold the air felt that night, even though we were in California. I had the heater on full blast in the rental car, but my hands still shook, not from the weather, from something else, something I didn't want to name yet. The kind of feeling that starts in your stomach and climbs slowly up your spine until your whole body knows something's wrong, even if your mind is still trying to reason it away. My son was sleeping in the back seat, his Spider-Man hoodie pulled over his head, legs curled up like he always did when he was nervous. My daughter sat next to me, wide-eyed and quiet. She hadn't said a word since we left the hotel, not one word, just stared out the window, her tiny hands clenched around the stuffed bunny she brought everywhere. I replayed the scene over and over in my head. The door opening, the sound of laughter that wasn't mine, a woman's laugh, soft, confident, too comfortable in a place that wasn't hers, and then the silence when he saw us, like the air left the room, like someone hit mute on a life I thought I understood. We'd flown across the country to surprise him, just me and the kids. I'd wrapped the handmade cards in gold ribbon. I booked the trip with miles I'd saved for a girl's getaway I never took. I even called the hotel to make sure he'd be in that night. He just got in, the concierge told me. Perfect timing. I knocked 3 times, just like always. My daughter giggled behind me. "Daddy's gonna be so happy," she said. I smiled. I wanted to believe her. I wanted that moment, the door swinging open, his eyes lighting up, the kids running into his arms. But the moment we walked in, it was clear that happiness didn't live in that room anymore. He didn't look surprised. He looked caught, like a child stealing cookies before dinner. And she didn't even flinch. She looked me up and down like I was the one intruding, like I was the secret. The kids didn't understand at first. My son asked if she was Daddy's work friend. My daughter clung to my leg, her eyes darting between the woman and me. The woman smiled at her, too sweet, too fake. And then she leaned down and said, "You're so cute, just like your daddy." That's when my daughter froze. Her lips trembled, and she said it. "He told me not to tell you." My heart dropped. "When did he say that, baby?" I asked. She looked at me, then away. Last time, in the other hotel, when we saw her before. I stood there, numb, humiliated, betrayed in front of my children. My knees went weak, but I didn't fall. I couldn't. Not with their eyes on me. Not with her smirking behind him. Not with my son asking, "Mommy, are you okay?" I lied. "Yes, baby, let's go." And I walked out. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't give them a show. But something in me broke that night, quietly, irreversibly. He didn't follow. He just stood there, maybe frozen, maybe relieved. I'll never know. I just know that the second the door closed behind us, I exhaled for the first time in what felt like years. And that's how it started. Not with a fight, not with a confession, but with a child's whispered secret in a hallway of a hotel I'll never forget. He thought I wouldn't find out. He forgot who taught our daughter to speak. We'd been married for 9 years, together for 11. From the outside, we looked solid. He had a respectable job in tech consulting, always flying to conferences, client meetings, hotel lounges. I stayed home with the kids, volunteered at school, made Pinterest lunches, smiled through PTA meetings. We were that couple, the picture-perfect kind people envied on Instagram. We met in college. He was charming, confident, the kind of guy who walked into a room and made you feel like you were the only one there. I was quieter, more reserved. I liked listening. He liked talking. We fit, or so I thought. He proposed under a string of fairy lights at a beach party. I said yes before he even finished the sentence. Our wedding was small, but magical. My mom cried through the whole thing. His parents gifted us their old house in San Diego. We renovated it together, picked paint, samples argued over light fixtures, danced in the empty kitchen before the floorboards were even in. That house became our story. Our kids were born there. They learned to walk in that living room. We carved pumpkins on that front porch. He used to call me his anchor, said I kept him grounded, focused, sane. I used to believe that was a compliment, but now I wonder if he meant I kept him stuck. If all the while he saw me as the weight, not the foundation. He started traveling more after our second child. At first, it made sense. Promotions, more clients, better pay. I was proud of him. I supported him. I packed his bags, left notes in his shoes, sent pictures of the kids at bedtime. He always said he missed us, that he hated being away. He made promises, more family vacations, fewer trips. Once this deal closed, that deal never really closed. Our daughter adored him. She'd wait by the door when he was due home. Our son, more sensitive, started acting out when he left. Nightmares, separation anxiety. He once cried himself sick the night his dad didn't call as promised. I soothed them both. I covered for him. I always had an excuse ready. "Daddy's busy, baby," or "He'll call tomorrow, I promise." My best friend Naomi once asked me if I ever got lonely. I laughed. "Of course not," I said. "I have the kids. I have the house. I have enough." But sometimes, when the house was silent and the kids asleep, I'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if enough had become a lie I told myself. There were signs, I guess, subtle ones. The way he'd flinch when I picked up his phone, how he suddenly started locking it, the passwords that changed without a word, the work trips that lasted a day longer than planned. But he always had a reason, and I always believed him, because believing him was easier than admitting something was wrong. I made excuses for him at birthdays he missed. I FaceTimed him in so the kids could blow out candles with him on screen. I told them he loved them, even when he forgot to call. I told myself he loved me too, because he said it, and I wanted it to be true. Our sex life faded into routine, then into absence. He blamed stress, deadlines, jet lag. I blamed myself. Maybe I wasn't exciting anymore. Maybe motherhood had erased the woman he married. So I tried harder. New clothes, surprise date nights, cooking his favorite meals. He smiled, thanked me, but his eyes were always somewhere else. My mom once said, "You can't hold a man who doesn't want to be held." I told her she was bitter. She said, "No, baby, I'm just old enough to know the difference between presence and partnership." I didn't want to be the woman who lost her husband. I wanted to be the woman who made it work, for the kids, for our vows, for the dream we built. Even when I felt it slipping away, I clung tighter, until the day we surprised him, and the truth stared me in the face with lipstick on its collar and a smirk that said, "You were never the only one." It started with missed calls, not from him, from me. He stopped answering right away. Bad reception, he'd say. Client meeting, running late, battery died. The excuses piled up like receipts he no longer bothered to hide. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But something in his voice started to change. That warmth, that softness. It was disappearing, replaced by something colder, distant. He used to call me babe. Then it became hey, and eventually just silence between sighs. I'd ask how his day went. He'd say, fine. I'd ask if he wanted to FaceTime the kids. He'd say he was too tired, but he always had time for Twitter, for fantasy, football. For late-night Zoom calls I wasn't allowed to join. One night I sent him a picture of the kids in their Halloween costumes. He didn't respond until the next morning. Cute was all he wrote. No heart, no I miss them. Just cute, like a stranger commenting on someone else's life. Naomi started to notice. He's pulling away, she said gently. You're doing everything, girl. Don't forget you matter too. But I brushed her off, told her things were just stressful. That work was draining him. That marriage goes through phases. But in my gut, I knew this wasn't a phase. It was a slow goodbye. Then came the work conferences he never mentioned. I'd see the names on receipts in the laundry. Hotel key, cards, fancy dinner bills, places he never told me he went. When I'd ask, he'd laugh. Why are you checking my pockets? That's weird. As if my curiosity was an offense, not his secrecy. He started dressing differently too. New shirts, expensive colognes he never wore around me. He shaved more often, whitened his teeth. You're looking sharp, I teased one morning. Big meeting? He shrugged. Something like that. No eye contact. Just a tight smile that didn't reach his eyes. The kids noticed the changes too. My son stopped asking when Daddy was coming home. My daughter started drawing pictures of our family, and he was never in them. One night she said, maybe Daddy has a new family in the sky, like a superhero. I laughed at the time. Now I know she was trying to make sense of absence. I suggested therapy once, a couple's retreat. He laughed. What do we need therapy for? We're not falling apart. But that was exactly what we were doing, falling, quietly, like watching. Glass shatter in slow motion. You can't stop it, only wait for the crash. I found a receipt once for a spa package. 2 people. Valentine's Day weekend. He said it was a gift for a coworker. I wanted to believe him. I nodded, smiled, kissed his cheek, then cried in the shower for an hour after he left. He started giving me the silent treatment whenever I brought up the distance. Not shouting, just silence. The kind that fills a room with tension so thick you can't breathe. He'd stare at his phone while I spoke, or leave the room, or say, you're being dramatic. That one hurt the most. The gaslighting became a daily ritual. You're imagining things. You're too sensitive. You're always trying to pick a fight. I began to doubt myself. I started journaling, just to remind myself I wasn't crazy. Writing down dates, things he said, things I knew happened, because he made me question my memory. He once forgot our anniversary. I planned a dinner, hired a sitter, wore the red dress he loved. He didn't show. Called 3 hours later and said he was stuck at the airport, but the airline app said there were no delays. When I told him that, he went quiet and hung up. I told Naomi I felt like a ghost, like I'm haunting a marriage. That already ended, I said. She held my hand and didn't say anything. She didn't have to. Even the kids felt the cold. My daughter stopped sleeping in her own bed. My son stopped drawing. He used to doodle superheroes and rockets. Now, he just stared at the paper. One night he whispered, "Is Daddy mad at us?" I told him no, but I wasn't sure anymore. I started to plan that surprise trip weeks before it happened. It was my last attempt, my Hail Mary. If he saw us, maybe he'd remember what we built, who we were, who he promised to be. I didn't know. It would be the moment everything shattered, but deep down, maybe I did. The hotel smelled like orchids and lemon, the kind of fake luxury you notice when your heart's already racing. I remember gripping my daughter's hand so tight, her knuckles turned white. She didn't complain, just looked up at me with her big, trusting eyes and said, "Do you think Daddy will be surprised?" I wanted to say yes. I wanted to believe it. I wanted this to be a movie moment, but something in my chest told me otherwise. Something told me to turn around, to protect them, but I kept walking, step by step toward the truth I didn't want. The concierge smiled when I gave his name. "Room 1912, she chirped. "He just checked in an hour ago. Perfect timing." I nodded. My knees felt weak. My stomach flipped, but I smiled for my kids. "Let's surprise Daddy," I said. The elevator ride felt like eternity. My son hummed a song. My daughter practiced what she'd say. "Guess who's here?" I held the room key in my hand like it was a lifeline. I told myself we'd laugh about this someday, that maybe I was just being paranoid, that maybe he'd cry when he saw us. I knocked first, 3 times. No answer. I swiped the key. The green light blinked. I opened the door, and time stopped. She was sitting on the edge of the bed in his shirt, laughing, drinking wine from the glasses I ordered for our anniversary trip 2 years ago. He stood near the window, barefoot, holding his phone, and when he saw us, he didn't speak. His mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. My daughter was the first to break the silence. "Daddy," she said, confused. She took a step forward, and that's when the woman looked up, completely unbothered. She didn't flinch. She didn't cover up. She looked me dead in the eyes and smiled. "Oh," she said, "is this your wife?" She dragged out the word, like it tasted bitter. My son looked at me, then at her. He clung to my leg. My daughter didn't move. He finally spoke. I didn't know you were coming, that's all. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "This isn't what it looks like." Just that. As if our presence was the mistake. I stared at him, waiting for an explanation, for anything. He took a step toward us, hands raised slightly, like that would undo the betrayal. "Let me explain," he whispered, but there was nothing left to say. Then my daughter said it, the words that changed everything. "She's the same one from last time. Remember? When you told me not to tell Mommy." Silence. Dead, suffocating silence. The woman looked at her, then at him. "Wow," she said with a dry laugh. "You really told your kid to lie. That's low, even for you." He turned pale. My daughter's eyes filled with tears. My son started to cry. I felt something inside me snap, but I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I bent down, picked up my daughter, and said, "We're leaving." He reached out. "Wait, please, just talk to me." But his voice sounded so far away, like it belonged to a stranger. I looked at him one last time, at the man I married, the father of my children, and all I saw was someone I didn't recognize. The woman didn't even bother covering up. She just took a sip of her wine and said, "Well, that was awkward." I walked out, each step heavier than the last. My kids silent, confused, hurt. I wanted to scream, to fall to my knees, to rage, but I couldn't. I had to hold it together, for them, for me. When the elevator doors closed, I finally exhaled, a shaky, broken breath, and then I felt it, a tear on my daughter's cheek as she whispered, "I didn't mean to ruin the surprise." My heart shattered, not because of him, but because she blamed herself. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't just heartbreak. This was war, a silent one I would fight with grace, strength, and distance. We flew home the next morning. No explanations, no long talks, no scenes. Just 3 one-way tickets, 2 tired kids, and a mother who finally understood the cost of silence. I didn't tell him we were leaving. I didn't answer his calls. I blocked his number before the plane took off. My daughter slept with her head on my lap. My son played with his shoelaces. I stared out the window and watched clouds pass like old memories I was done keeping. I didn't cry on the plane. I didn't cry at baggage claim. I didn't cry when we got home and the lights felt too bright and the house felt too big. I just tucked the kids in, unpacked our bags, and sat on the edge of my bed. I took off my ring and placed it in the drawer, not in anger, in mourning. He emailed. He called from unknown numbers. He left voicemails that ranged from panic to apology to gaslighting. "You blindsided me. You're being cruel. Let's be adults. Don't punish the kids." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Some betrayals answer themselves. Told the kids Daddy was staying at work for a while, that he loved them, that they did nothing wrong. My daughter nodded quietly. My son asked if I was sad. I smiled and said, "Not anymore." It wasn't true, but it would be someday. Naomi showed up with wine and no questions. She held me while I finally cried. Long, broken sobs that came from a place I didn't know existed. She didn't interrupt. She didn't try to fix it. She just sat with me, and that was enough. That was everything. I started deleting photos, slowly, one at a time, not out of spite, out of necessity, like pulling out splinters one by one. His smile in the background of birthday parties, his hand on my shoulder during anniversaries. It all looked fake now, like props in a play I never auditioned for. I stopped explaining myself, to friends, to family, to anyone who asked why he wasn't around. We needed space, I'd say. I chose peace. Some understood, some didn't. It didn't matter anymore. I wasn't performing grief for anyone. I stopped waiting for him to show up. to explain, to take accountability. He never did. He kept blaming stress, said he made a mistake. That word, mistake, burned in my chest. A mistake is leaving the stove on, not building a secret life behind your family's back. Removed his name from the emergency contact list at school, updated my documents, changed the lock code. Every small action felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. I even changed the sheets. It sounds stupid, but sleeping in clean linens that he never touched felt like a ritual, like shedding a skin. I started walking at night after the kids were asleep. Just me, the moon, and my thoughts. No music, no distractions, just silence, the kind that heals, not hides. He sent gifts, flowers, a necklace, a letter. I sent them all back, unopened, except the letter. I burned that one. Watched it curl and blacken like the version of me that once believed in his promises. People always think leaving means yelling, breaking plates, slamming doors, but sometimes it's quiet. A suitcase zipped in the dark, a number blocked without, a word, a woman who doesn't look back. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need closure. I needed air, and he was suffocating me, so I walked away, and I didn't explain why. Rebuilding didn't happen all at once. It wasn't a dramatic makeover or some grand reinvention. It was quiet, steady, and mostly invisible at first, like planting seeds in the dark, hoping they'd take root. I started by waking up before the kids, just to have 1 hour where no one needed me. I'd sit with coffee in the kitchen, wrapped in a blanket, watching the sky change colors. That was my first ritual of healing. I signed up for a part-time course in graphic design. It had been years since I'd done anything just for me. At first, I felt guilty, spending time, money, and energy on something that didn't directly benefit the kids. But slowly, I started to feel proud. I was learning, growing, breathing. My kids noticed before I did. "You laugh more," my daughter said one day, her eyes squinting like she wasn't sure it was okay to say it. I pulled her close and said, "That's because we're safe now." She nodded, like she understood something most adults didn't. I reconnected with friends I'd let slip away during the marriage, women I used to brunch with, text late at night, dream out loud with. They welcomed me back without judgment. We laughed until we cried. We cried until we laughed. They reminded me of the girl I used to be and the woman I was becoming. There were hard days too. Nights I'd lie in bed wondering if I did the right thing, if I'd ruined my children's family, if I'd given up too soon. But every time I felt that spiral start, I'd remember her face, the woman in the hotel room, and my daughter's words. He told me not to tell. That was the answer. That was the truth. I started journaling again, not to track pain, but to record victories. Made it through the day without flinching at his name. Applied for a freelance job and got it. Danced in the kitchen with the kids to Lizzo. Small things, but together they formed a life. I painted the bedroom, got rid of the furniture we bought together. It sounds shallow, but it helped. I chose soft blues and grays, colors that calmed me. I wanted my space to feel like mine, not a museum of memories I didn't ask to preserve. The day I made my own money again, I cried, not because it was a lot, it wasn't, but because it came from me, my brain, my talent, not a shared account, not a man's paycheck. Mine, therapy, became a sacred space, not just for me, but eventually for the kids too. We talked, we named the hurt, we learned new ways to love. I remember the first time my son said, "I'm proud of you, Mommy." I almost broke, but instead, I said, "I'm proud of me too." There were moments I wanted to lash out, to text him, to scream, to throw his betrayal in his face, but I didn't. I chose peace, every time. Not for him, for me, because rage would have kept me tied to him, and I wanted freedom more than revenge. Eventually, I smiled without it feeling forced. I wore dresses I used to save for special occasions. I stopped saving joy for later. Later had come, and it was mine. One night, after the kids fell asleep, I poured a glass of wine, lit a candle, and whispered, "You made it," just to myself, just to hear it out loud, because I had, and no one could take that from me. It had been nearly a year since I'd seen him in person. I got a notification from the school, Father's Breakfast for second graders, optional, but open to both parents. I almost deleted the email, but something in me paused. This time, I didn't feel dread. I felt ready. I didn't tell the kids he might show up. I didn't want them to hope. I just brushed my daughter's hair into a braid, packed her favorite yogurt in her lunchbox, and told myself I'd be okay either way. I wore jeans, a simple white shirt, and red lipstick. Not for him, for me, because I liked how I looked, because I didn't feel like hiding anymore. When I walked into the cafeteria, he was already there, standing near the juice table, holding a paper cup and looking around like he didn't belong. He hadn't changed much, maybe a little thinner, more tired, but the difference was in me. He saw me, froze for half a second, then smiled that rehearsed smile he always used when he didn't know what to say. I nodded once, that was all. My daughter ran up to me, grabbed my hand. "Daddy came," she said, then whispered, "But I was waiting for you." That sentence pierced something deep. Not pain, but affirmation. She still chose me. We sat at different tables. The kids laughed. played games, ate pancakes. He tried to make conversation. "You look good." I smiled politely. "I am good." That's all I gave him. Later, in the hallway, he followed me out. "Can we talk?" I turned slowly. "About what?" he stammered. "About everything. I just want to understand how you're doing." That sentence told me everything. How I was doing. Not what he did. Still deflecting. Still self-centered. "I'm thriving," I said, looking him straight in the eyes. "But you don't get access to that part of me anymore." His mouth opened slightly. No words came out. He tried again. "I made mistakes. I was lost." I raised a hand. "Stop. You didn't get lost. You walked away, repeatedly, with intention." He nodded slowly. The smirk was gone. I walked past him, calm and centered. The woman from the hotel never reached out. Maybe they lasted. Maybe they didn't. I didn't care. I never asked. A few weeks later, I saw his mother at the grocery store. She used to call me daughter. That day, she looked at me and said, "You look stronger." I just smiled. "I am." He eventually stopped trying to reach out. I think he realized I wasn't the same woman he betrayed. I wasn't angry anymore. I was untouchable. I kept rebuilding. Slowly, quietly, intentionally. I started teaching. Design classes online. I even took the kids on our first solo vacation. Just us and the sea. There was no moment of grand revenge. No dramatic showdown. Just this. He saw what he lost, and I saw what I became without him. Sometimes the best, "I told you so," is a life that no longer includes them. I used to think closure meant sitting down, hearing apologies, unpacking every detail until the pain made sense. But I know better now. Closure isn't something someone gives you. It's something you choose. It's the moment you stop asking why and start asking what now. The truth is, I'll never fully understand how someone can look you in the eye, build a life with you, raise children beside you, and still lie so easily. But understanding was never the point. Healing was. Some nights, I still wake up remembering that hotel hallway, the smell of that lobby, my daughter's voice. But now I don't flinch. I breathe through it. I remind myself that pain is just a signal, not a sentence. My kids are thriving. They laugh louder now. They trust the walls of our home again. They know what love looks like, not because I told them, but because they see it in how I show up every day with honesty, with peace. I stopped shrinking. I stopped doubting my intuition. I stopped making myself smaller to make someone else comfortable. There's power in the quiet kind of growth, the one that doesn't beg to be seen, but refuses to be erased. I learned how to love myself in ways I didn't even know I needed. Not in spite of the betrayal, but because of it. He didn't just break our vows. He revealed everything I'd been ignoring in myself, and that truth became my fuel. Sometimes, people say I'm strong, but I'm not. I just got tired of bleeding for someone who never held the bandages. I chose myself. I chose my kids. I chose a life without pretending. And if I ever see him again, really see him, not just across a school hallway or on a bank statement, I'll smile. Not out of forgiveness, not out of bitterness, just because I made it. I rebuilt from silence. I found freedom in the wreckage, and I'm still here. He didn't break me. He just gave me back to myself.